Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, we're going to be painting this really cool, I'm calling it Moody floral landscape. Got my husband Mark with me tonight.
Hey there, everybody.
He's in a chat for this one, and I'll be showing you how to paint this from start to finish tonight. Let's get started. Okay, so I've prepped my canvas. This is a 12 by 12. Welcome if you're new to our live streams. I'm an artist here, and I have been doing these live streams for several years now. Got literally hundreds of these tutorials of different kinds, and I like to show you the whole process from start to finish so that you can paint along if you so desire, or at least maybe learn a thing or two and use it to inspire you on your art journey. Let me go over my colors here that we'll be using tonight. I've got carbon black, neutral gray. It's basically the same color as my palette here. This is actually neutral gray 5, so there's different neutral gray degrees. This one's 5, which is right in the middle. Burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red light, quinacridone magenta, dioxazine purple, ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, unbleached titanium, titanium white, and some satin glazing liquid. For our brushes, you're going to want like a large flat just to kind of block in some of our colors, and then some sort of a foliage brush or sponge could work also for some of the foliage. This is kind of a springtime. I just found this photo, and I wanted to mention too, this photo came from a local person here in Russellville, Arkansas, where we live. And his name was Robert Ford, so thank you to Robert for letting us use this photo. As soon as I saw it, I was like, ooh, I want to paint that. And then somebody had tagged me on Facebook. Lindsay Drain had tagged me on Facebook like 2 years ago when he first posted it. I just found it, so a little late, but we'll get it. We'll get it in. It's really funny. So yay, I'm excited. Better late than never, right? We could still paint. Hey, it's flowers, you know. Anytime we get to paint flowers, I'm all in. You'll also want some sort of angle brush and probably also a liner brush. I'm going to try to use these Dagger Striper. They're kind of a specialized angle brush. It's sort of a combo Filbert, which is the curved flat brush, and an angle brush. So they make nice long lines. So we could use our liner brush for our tree branches, but there's so many of them. Using a brush like this will hold a lot more paint. You can see, you know, it'll hold 2 or 4 times more paint. So we can make a lot more lines with this in one load. It'll save us time. I don't know why I'm taking so long to explain that, but you get the idea. So foliage brush of some sort. Did it just skip?
I just changed.
Oh, okay. It looked like it skipped on me. And then some sort of a flat brush for our large tree here, and like a kind of a medium-sized flat brush for that, and then a round or so for the smaller branches, or larger branches, I should say. Medium-sized branches. There we go. All right, these are all Princeton brushes. They're a brush sponsor, so shout out to Princeton. The green-handled, I'll mention them as I go, so that you'll know kind of what I'm using. All right, let's get going here. I'm going to use regular school chalk and just kind of block in our main shapes. One of the things that makes this such a striking 60% of the painting here is this purple toned bush that's right in the foreground. It's nice and large here, taking up a good amount of space, but also about 60% is this purple. We're using a kind of complementary color scheme here, although our purple is kind of a little bit more on the red-violet line, but violet and yellow being opposite on the color wheel, so that's another reason why this really stands out. So we've got 60% of this purple color and about 30% of this yellow color that's blocked in here, and then a little bit, maybe like 10% of like a green, and the rest of this is all kind of neutral gray and browns. So it's not really going to draw the eye like our colors will. So that's why this composition works so well and is so striking right off the bat it's just really well balanced. So kudos to Robert. He said that he's going to have to cut down this arbor this year because these trees are getting too big, which is kind of a shame. So we're getting to paint it. So there's this kind of curved arbor of trees that are actually blooming white. You can't really tell in the picture because everything's kind of gray, but we'll try to make it show up a little bit, maybe put a little bit of blue in the sky just so that this stands out a little bit more white. So that'll be kind of our main focal point there. And there's a house and stuff back here, but I think I'm just going to minimize all of the detail and kind of just do kind of blocky shapes, maybe slightly suggest some things back here, but I'm not going to paint in the house real carefully. So there's our little arch, and it's really pretty centered above the, like if you find the center mark, our arch is pretty centered on it. It may go a little higher than that, kind of like that, and then come out. And then right in here, there's a nice tree that kind of comes down here a little bit where our yellow bush is, and comes up and out. These are one of my favorite kinds of trees because they have such a cool bark, kind of that twisty. I don't know what they are. Somebody in chat probably knows. Sycamore, maybe? I'm not really sure. Beech? I don't know. I literally have no idea, but we're going to paint them. They're my favorite tree, but I don't know what they're called. No, I've painted them before, and we probably looked it up at the time that we painted them before because we painted that one from Kansas City that had the words carved in it. That was the same kind of tree.
It's probably a wood tree.
Made of wood? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that help.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's good enough. I'm not going to sketch too hard on that one. And that's pretty much it. We just need our foreground, or our now I can't say my words anymore. Horizon line. Oh my goodness. All right, let's paint. I'm already in the art brain. My goodness. It's going to be an interesting night. All right, so let's go ahead, and I think the predominant color in most of this background is gray. Oh, I want to mention also that I've painted the background with burnt sienna to start with, just a very light little tiny bit spread around so that it's nice and thin, just to give us a little ground. And when you're doing your background, or your canvas a background color, it's good to have it be like a neutral that's kind of a mid value color so that when you put your lights and darks on it, it'll be easier to tell where you want to go with it. This has got a lot of contrast in it, so we're gonna have a lot of darks back here, so I don't want to go too dark with this background because I want these tree trunks to show up. So I'm gonna keep it pretty close to this value, maybe a little bit darker, and then lighten up some areas up around the top. All right. Stop talking and paint.
Okay, we have one person who said it's a sycamore.
Sycamore. Okay, here we go.
So if you trust the one person,
I do.
Chat,
it's
good. It's better than what I had.
What would you have? Tree?
Wood.
Wood. Okay.
Technically, I'm correct.
Okay. No comment. What did you say the other night? That,
oh gosh.
I'm making a very gray blue here using ultramarine blue, tiny bit of ultramarine, mostly white, and a little bit of that gray. Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't either. Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much all I'm going to do for that. And the rest of this is going to be pretty dark. But I do want a little bit of this peeking through my trees and things. Again, I'm not sure why I drew out that tree so carefully because I'm going to just be painting over the whole thing right now. Get ready. Here it comes. So let's add a little tiny bit of green. I don't want it to look green. Just want it to be slightly greenish. So maybe get a little bit of the blue and cobalt teal, ultramarine blue and cobalt teal. add it to this neutral gray. I still had that light color in my brush, so it's not going super light here, or super dark. I mean, it's staying pretty neutral. Don't add too much of the blue. I'm just gonna kind of block that in here and try to create a nice shadowy blend between the sky and the green. And I do want a little bit of that light color for right in here, so we'll get to that here in a second, but for now I'm just going to use this kind of mid-tone and again just kind of blend it in. If your sky is already dry, that's fine. If your sky is halfway dry, you might want to stop and let it dry completely before you do this step, because it'll potentially lift your color. So let's go ahead and use this light color right in here. That's our focal point area. We might even add a little bit of white to it. We'll see. I'll go ahead and kind of just pull it out a little farther than I think I need it. I get a little bit more white and just put the white right in there. Okay, we'll leave that. Let's go back to my gray here. And just block in, and you could leave a little bit of this background color showing if you want. The point of the background color isn't necessarily to be visible, it's just to make it easier to see your values. And by values I just mean dark and lights colors when you're painting. So if you start with the white canvas, it can be difficult because something that's mid-tone can look really dark when it's not that dark, and you might tend to not put it dark enough values in at first, and then you have to go back in and put darker values in later. So this just kind of saves a step. Just start with the mid-tone and then work from there to dark and light, and it's a little bit easier on you. Okay, just very lightly. Once I get the paint down, I can just kind of use my brush very lightly and just kind of push it around a little bit. Boss it around. All right. Let's go ahead and get a little bit darker, and I think I'm going to put the darker color on the area down below here. So I'm going to get some burnt umber. Mix that in. I'm going to go back to the Cobalt, Teal, and Ultramarine Blue. Get some of that just so that it's kind of an earthy brown. So I'm going a little bit darker than that background color. And I'm just going to lock that in along that horizon line. And I don't want a really hard line between these two, so I'm just going to kind of feather it in. This is starting to dry though, so I can't really do too much to it right now. Just going to kind of try to lightly brush back and forth and skim that paint on along that horizon line. And then if I press down more, you can see I'm getting some of that lighter color coming off, but I don't care about that. Be fine. We're going to be covering up a lot of this with other stuff, so we'll just kind of keep it side to side here. This doesn't have to look good, so don't get too caught up in these stages. This is all going to be just our initial layer. Acrylics look worse before they look better, so kind of just know that going in, and you'll have less panic. A lot of times people get to this stage as soon as they start, or kind of get a little bit farther in to the mid stages of a painting, and it starts to not look so great, and they kind of think, oh, I'm doing something wrong, and then they try to fix it, and then it really goes wrong because they're trying to put in their light values before their dark values are in, and that kind of thing. So just kind of learn to trust the process. Layers go on dark, and then we'll add our lighter colors on top and our more vibrant colors on top. Especially in a landscape, there's a lot of building up of detail. Start out simple and then go detailed. All right, so there we go. You can see I left a lot of that reddish tone here at the bottom. And I know I'm going to go really dark and almost black right in here. So this is definitely going to go a little bit darker. So let's get a little bit of the burnt umber. And I'm going to grab the purple. Purple is a great dark color to use in a landscape. So I'm going to put that Dioxazine Purple there. Instead of black, I'm going to save the black mostly for the tree branches where I know I need it really, really dark. But this Dioxazine Purple is great for a little, little bit of a shadow color. It's going to be prettier than just black. Okay, so it's also kind of a dark area right here. And I'm just kind of tapping in here, trying not to lift off too much of the paint that I just put down. All right, looks good. Already kind of getting that feel of a little bit of a distance here. I definitely need to darken this up. So once this is dry, I can start adding our tree details and things in here. Can't tell. I think it's mostly dry. All right. Got a tickle in my throat. Okay.
Some water?
Or just a cough drop or something. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to grab a 5/8 inch Deerfoot Stippler. You could also use a small sponge like a sea sponge like that would work. And get a little bit of water. And we're going to put in our dark trees back here. So, my goodness, I'm very coffee today. So let's get the the yellow oxide, not unbleached titanium, yellow oxide and phthalo green or cobalt teal. If you don't have phthalo green or cobalt teal, you can use phthalo green. And I added a little bit of purple, and that what the purple will do is tone this down. It kind of neutralizes that yellow. This yellow oxide is already kind of neutral, but the purple will tone it down even more. So now we have a nice gray-green color going with that gray theme that we've already got going on here. I'm just going to kind of lightly scumble, and I turn my brush and circles. You can also stipple it. I think I have a little too much paint on here right now to scumble it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds like you got the cooties.
I do. I don't know. I'm coughing. I think it's just the dry air in the house. The air conditioner pulling all the moisture out of the air.
True.
Okay. I'm gonna concentrate most of the darkest color kind of in this area. I'm gonna go much darker over here. This is where our tree's gonna be, but I want to go kind of on both sides. Now as it approaches this, it's getting lighter back here, but I'm gonna go ahead and I think start with this color, and then we'll probably add lighter color on top. Sorry, you're gonna hear my throat lozenge or hitting my teeth, so just bear with me. It's either that or coughing, so okay. And then I'm gonna push up here. You can see that purple didn't quite fully mix with this, or it kind of just like showing up on my brush there. Kind of funny. Right, press down a little harder. Get a little bit more of that cobalt teal and yellow oxide. Try to work it through my brush there. There we go. Let's work through a little bit better. You do this on a big canvas, you're gonna get some muscles because all this tapping, tap. Oh goodness, that's a lot. That's where if I was doing this on a big canvas, I would for sure be using a sponge. You can do larger areas with it. Okay, and the bigger the canvas, the bigger your brush. You know, gotta size up. Well, that looks pretty good. So back in here, I'm gonna add a little bit more of a yellow. I'm seeing some yellow in the distance there through the trees. So I'm gonna get a little bit of that yellow oxide and a little bit of the unbleached titanium. That'll lighten it up, so if you get closer to this value, it won't be as noticeable. So we'll use that back here. Use it out here, kind of on the edge of the trees, just to soften them off between the sky and the tree line. Okay. And then what I think I'm going to do here is just take some of this white and mix that in with what I've got and just blend out between these two. So I'm just going to take that brush and blend off the edges here a little bit. Kind of make it look like maybe lights shining through there or something like that. Okay, that's good enough. I think I'm going to use it on the edges here too, just to soften these off. I'm going to blend them out a little bit. You can use it anywhere where you want to kind of just add a little bit of softness. Tree branches got a little too heavy-handed or anything. Okay, so I think we're pretty close to where we want to be on this area. Well, let's kind of work on this lower area here.
Got a question.
Okay.
The top of the canvas looks like it's got like a heavy paint line. Will you be?
No, that's just a photo edit, that you did.
I know, but on your canvas where you did that green paint, it looks like it's like thick right on the edge.
Oh, right on the edge.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can soften that off.
Okay. You don't have to. It was just a question.
Well, we'll have other colors being up there right now, so I'm not worried about it.
All right.
All right. Trying to decide if I want to put that like little fence line kind of thing. I do kind of think it'd be good to have like a light color, because there's kind of that little bit of light kind of peeking through that goes across there for that fence that sort of divides it. I think it might help. So I think I will just go ahead and kind of brush it across with this brush. Most of this is getting covered up by, there'll be up a bunch of tree branches and things in front, so Doesn't have to look perfect. I'm just kind of trying to get a little bit of a light color there. Okay, that looks good. So let's put this really dark little area right in here. So it's gonna look really nice when we put our lighter tree in front. So I'm gonna get the purple and some ultramarine blue, and my burnt umber. And then I think I will pick a little bit of black too. I'm just picking my dark color, my darkest colors on the palette, you can see. And this is where I am gonna kind of tap. So I'm gonna go just above that light color that I just did. And I'm gonna tap way to the edge of the canvas here. The tree trunk's gonna be in here somewhere, so I'm just gonna go over where I think it's gonna be. Leave some of that lighter color showing through here and there. But I've got enough paint on my brush here that it's covering pretty well. I think I'm gonna do a little bit down here too. I'm just looking in my picture to see where those dark branches are going, and there's some of this darker tone underneath where the branches are so thick. They're kind of coming together. There's a bunch of leaves and things. Okay. So pretty. Okay, that looks good, I think. And I'm going to go ahead and go in front of this because I see that the tree branches are coming down in front of this fence line down here. So I'm going to go ahead and tap kind of down into my foreground and pick up a little bit of my browns. We'll get a little bit of water. Can also just use my spray gun. This brush can get a little soggy and hard to work with if you add too much water to it, so I'm trying not to dip it into my water if I can help. Okay, so this is where I'm going to really kind of make sure that my values are dark enough here. And I've already kind of done this area down here, but I'll go ahead and put a little bit more of this really dark color, that color up down here, up, down. Okay. It's almost solid right in there. I'm just going to kind of come across like that and bridge the gap there. And then when we do our tree, it'll kind of enclose this whole area. Okay. Let's go ahead and get back some of our dark color. Add it down here. Okay, again, it's just going to look like a bunch of nothing at this point. It's normal. Alright, that looks pretty good. Believe it or not. Okay, so let's start putting in some of our greens back here. What I'm trying to do is figure out what's in front of what here, because there's so many things happening. I want to do it in order so that I don't have to try to paint around something later. So we've got so much going on here. I want to get these dark colors in, but then some of these dark branches are over the top of my lighter colors, so I want to make sure that I have the right midtones behind when I do my branches that are going to swoop around and all of that. So it's kind of a little bit tricky. So let's go ahead and put the green in next. I think there's some green all through here that I want to do. And I think instead of trying to clean this brush out, I think I'm just going to kind of dab it off and set it aside and get another brush that's like a little bit smaller. This is a 3/8 inch size. And we'll mix up our green, get some ultramarine blue and some of my two yellows here, the yellow oxide and the cadmium. Right. Go a little bit darker with the green. Okay. And I'm just I'm not going to try to define this area back here. The photographs are always going to be more detailed than you want to do with a painting, you know. The naked eye, when you're looking at this in person, these areas back here will kind of, unless you're focused on them, they'll look kind of fuzzy. And the same goes for a painting. We want to kind of create that feeling of being here. So we're going to keep everything kind of fuzzy back here, and we only want to do our details on the things that are in the front foreground here, which is going to mostly be the flowers of this tree here. All right, so let's go ahead and start blocking in some of this color back here. And this is all very indistinct underneath our trees, but you will see this, so we want to take a little bit of time to put some detail in here. You can scrub or you can tap, either way it works. This brush can take a beating. Okay, now as I get down here, I'm going to kind of tap it side to side. Blend that out, and then let's go ahead and get some of this burnt sienna color, maybe a little bit of yellow oxide, and just use that underneath this green and over the top of it. It's already kind of there in my ground color, but this will help blend it in. Again, we're doing large shapes right now. I'm not worried about the little leaves or the grasses or anything like that. Just trying to block in shapes that I'm seeing. It helps if you kind of squint at the picture too. You know, it's like using that filter in your photo on your phone where it blurs things a little bit. That's kind of what we're wanting to do here.
Well, I'll just take my glasses off.
Hey, that's a good idea, actually. It's a really good idea.
Where are you? Are you still in here?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
I'll just wet down the paint instead of my brush here. And if I want a little bit brighter green, I can grab some of that Cobalt Teal. It'll brighten it up. All right, so I have that burnt sienna in my brush that's toning this green down, as well as the yellow oxide. And I went a little bit lighter with it, with the cadmium yellow. And now I'm going to start to actually do some like little grassy type things here. Just kind of tapping and having the tip just barely touch the canvas. And scrape it side to side here over the top of this green. Your light color is going to be kind of toward the top, so if you have an area of green, you're going to want to hit the top of it with this. This will just help. And I'm not going to really put it back here. I'm just going to do it in this foreground area right in here. You can also tap if you want like smaller little leafy looking grasses, but okay, I think that looks good. And this is going to dry a little bit darker, so we may even go back over it with a little bit of lighter color too. We'll see as we get going here what we think. Okay, this is our 10% green here that we're talking about, which is kind of in other areas too, but get the idea. All right, let's go ahead and use a little bit of this in our trees up here, and I might add a little gray to it just to tone it down because this is farther away. I'm going to use it up here in my trees. So down here, I think I'm going to use a little bit of the burnt umber, ultramarine, or burnt sienna, burnt umber mixture. Just do a little indication, some brown going across here. Still leaving a little bit of that light color right there, though. Okay. A lighter color, maybe a little bit of unbleached titanium here, and hit the top of that just to push it back, soften it off. Don't want any hard edges here, so I want everything kind of soft and blended. Okay, looks good enough. All right, so I think I want to do some white-ish just right in there. And it's really kind of almost, I don't know, it's like a gray white color. So I'm gonna just blend it with what I've got in my brush here. I might grab a little bit of this purple color from that. Add it to my white just to gray it out. Though it looks a little bit almost green. And I think I'm going to do right in here. So I'm just going to tap. This is where I'm going to really kind of try to get a little bit thicker coverage. So I'm going to tap a little bit more heavily and go over some of these darker areas here to get just a little bit of this white-ish. Using my brush straight down here, I can kind of get little rounded bits and just pepper that through a couple places. I don't want to do too much because I'm going to put my dark branches through this, and so I will put some of this on top later too. But now if I'm getting like repeat shapes like that, which I really don't want, I'm going to try to kind of come back in here and kind of disguise those because I don't want big repeat shapes. That's what will make it look unrealistic. Okay. That's good enough. So let's start putting our tree trunks in. We'll probably put tree trunks and then put some more of the greenery on top once we get our tree trunks in. So I'm just going to use a dagger striper that I was talking about. This one is a Umbria from Princeton, number 2, 1/4 inch. And I'm going to use my black, and this is a fluid black, carbon black. You want to thin out your paint for this. And I'm going to start back here and kind of get a feel for the brush and then go in a little tighter. So our arcs are kind of coming across like this. They're going all the way over. And then this side has got like the branches coming down, so you can kind of just use the tip of it to do the little branches on this side. Okay. You can press down a little harder when you start, and then as you come around, lift off a little bit. You'll need to do more than you think you need, so just keep doing it. And I'm going to go ahead and do some kind of in front this way too, just small ones, kind of to make it draw you in. Right. Getting there. And then some of these are going up this way and up, off. And you can come back in here and start adding branches coming off. Different directions, and make sure you're crisscrossing them too, so they're not looking like a bunch of parallel lines coming through. It's so pretty how they've done this. I wonder how they did it. They trained them as sapling to kind of bend like this. That's really pretty. That feels fall to me, you know, even though we're going to be adding the flowers. You could make this a fall scene really easily if you didn't want to do the flowers. You could do, you know, like a red foliage and leave the yellow foliage. I think it would look really good. So it's just a thought. So let's go ahead and bring in my branches on this side. And as we get to the end, we want these branches to be very thin. So just make sure that you're not going too thick with these ones. And then right in here, there's a bunch of little ones too that are kind of coming down, curving in, back in. Okay, I think that's good enough for there. Let's go ahead and do our bigger ones over here, just big trees coming up here, and also kind of, this one is kind of grayish, so I'm probably gonna scumble back over it and lighten it back up, but I'm gonna start with it being black, and then we'll probably lighten this whole area up a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of press sideways to get a bigger tree trunk in there, in that area. And just make sure I kind of clean up any areas that look too messy. Or like my branch gets thinner or something as it goes down. You don't want to go from a thick branch to a thinner branch as it goes down this way. You want your branches to be the thickest where they're going down to the ground. So keep an eye on that too. They get thinner as they go away from the tree trunk, not towards it. Nice. Well, I like this just as is with the tree trunks. It's really cool looking, huh?
Mm-hmm. Very moody.
Mm-hmm, it is. I think it's a good name for it. We've talked about doing something like this in our garden. We've tried kind of trellising our above our tomatoes and stuff to get an arch going, but we haven't been very successful. They don't want to go up. They'd rather go out and fall out on the ground and then climb. They're like me. They're like, why? Why you make me? I don't want to.
Yeah, and I was planning to put the tomatoes, have them arch over. But then by the time I realized it had grown all the way through, I couldn't bend them back.
They'd grown all the way through, yeah.
So now they're like, let's see, they're in raised beds that are 2 foot off the ground, and then they're probably another 8 feet.
Yeah, I can't reach any of the ones if they're growing fruit up that high.
Yeah, the plants are probably a good 10 foot tall.
Easily, yeah. All right, so we've got I really like how this is looking. So let's go ahead and put this tree in next, because that's our next. If we want to do anything more with these branches, there is kind of like a little bit of a area right here where the branches are coming down. So I might get a little bit of that black and some of the Cobalt Teal Unbleached Titanium. Gonna make a gray and tap in sort of over just a little bit, running through here. You can also do it, like I said, through the here to kind of soften this off. Also, now that we have our tree branches in, we kind of know where we can maybe add some foliage or things if we need to. All right, get the white. And I think instead of this brush, I think I'm going to be a little bit more strategic about where I'm putting these colors. So I'm going to get my angle brush here. I could probably use my striper too, but I find that they're not great for me for doing detail. I like to have my angle brush. It's a little shorter, easier to control. So I'm just going to use white and maybe a little bit of this green that I just did. So it's a lighter version of that green that I just did, and I'm just going to dab in a few little clusters with just the tip of my brush. You can kind of see. Okay. Most of this is going to get covered up by a tree, so you don't need to do too much here. I'm going to go ahead and dab in a few little branches here, or do little dabs where the ends of those branches are. And maybe back in here too.
Is that a tulip tree?
That's like what we have in our yard. It's a magnolia, pink magnolia. Also called tulip tree. All right. And then white here, I'm going to do very, very small little ones. Okay. That's good. Are you happy with that? Can always add more later if we want to. Okay, let's put in our big tree. I think I'm going to get a 4 flat from the 6100 series. And my unbleached titanium here. I'm going to spray my paints so they don't get dried out. And I'm also going to use the gray here. My gray and my unbleached titanium. I'm going to start with that and then I'll work towards white for my highlights. So I know I have a branch that comes across here. I'm going to start with my branch just because I want to paint around this area here. So it's going to come across like that and then come back out this way. Okay. And then we're going to come down past that little white barrier that we put in. Okay, and then it comes up. There's a little dip right there where the branch meets it. And I don't want to go, I think I want to leave a little bit of that green there, so I think I'm going to come over just a little bit more. Right there. I'll leave that little bit of, there's a branch coming off there. It's a little bit thicker than this, but I'm just kind of sketching it out right now, so make it a little bit thicker. It's leaning a lot too. It does lean in the picture though, so but I might widen it out just slightly right here, and maybe see if I can take it in right there a little bit. Like that, so it doesn't come so far out. Okay, that looks good. It's a little bit better. And then I'm going to get the burnt umber. This side is darker. It has this dark branch coming off like that. Okay. I'm going to get the burnt umber and burnt sienna, and I'm going to come in on this one and put in the bark detail that I'm seeing. It kind of goes at a diagonal. I want to make sure that this part up here looks a little wider than down here, so I want to widen this out so that it matches or is wider than up there. And I'm going to bring this out. There's a little bit more lump there where that branch comes out. And again, make sure that that branch is thicker towards the trunk. Right. I think I'm gonna go straight up here a little bit more. There we go. All right. Dabbing in kind of a twisty motion. Darker on this side of the tree. I think it also looks a little bit more like it's leaning because it's my canvas is leaning, like the camera's tilted, so that's Fitzy. He's putting his 2 cents in. Dog. Ruff. All right. I'm gonna just use the edge of my brush here, and I've got the Unbleached Titanium in gray. And I kind of combined it with what's on my brush here, and I'm gonna dab it on. Make those little kind of patchy marks that are on the tree. I'm going to get white, and I'm going to dry brush with the white and kind of drag it across. Little dabbing motions. Okay, now I'm going to come down here and kind of highlight this side of the tree a little bit. Make sure it's got a little bit of that diagonal action going here. Okay. I'm going to leave that be, let it dry. I've got a lot of layers on it, so we'll let those dry and then we'll come back in later, do some more detail, but we can kind of work on this while we're doing that. This is pretty much 90% done. I might come back in and add some more branches over the top just to soften things off a little bit, get a little gray and unbleached titanium. And just I kind of started doing this, but I didn't do much of it, so just kind of soften off this area right here in particular. So there's going to be a lot of these purple flowers coming up in front, and I don't want this to be real dark right here where they're going to go. Bring that area down a little bit in tone. Bring out the tree a little bit right there where kind of on this side of it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of that burnt umber, cobalt teal, yellow oxide. I had a little bit of purple on there too. and do a little bit of that mid-tone purpley color back there to kind of fill in. I probably could have brought that out a little bit more right there. And let's go ahead and use it over here too, since we've got this kind of lighter color going on over the top of our trees. Okay. Very good. Okay. And I think I'm gonna trying to think what brush I want to use. Let's go ahead and use this 2 round here, because I want to do some details on my tree. It is kind of one of the focal points here, so I want to have a little bit more detail on it. I'm going to mix that burnt umber and gray. And I'm just going to kind of look at where I see the patterns on the tree and try to dab in some of those areas a little bit over the top of what I've already done. Try to blend in the white and the brown areas. Let's go ahead and wipe that out, get some just gray. Kind of go around those areas and dab off any odd bits. And darken up this branch back here that's going off. I think there's another branch up here coming up too. Get the unbleached titanium with the white. And I've mixed it with this gray. And we'll go ahead and put it on. Make these little patches that are happening. Looks like they're little peeled parts of the bark. The bark kind of peels off and leaves these interesting patterns. And this is one of the things that you can do as much or as little as you want. If you don't want to do a lot of detail on this tree, that's fine. You can just kind of leave it a little bit more neutral. It's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and use this darker grayish color and my unbleached titanium and make a mid-tone so that I can kind of bridge the gap here. So I have kind of a softer, yeah, there we go. A softer brown that's a little bit darker than the lightest color. We use that to kind of help create those swirls and soften off between the darkest and lightest areas if I need it. Okay, I think what I'm going to do in this one is maybe just glaze this tree back a little bit darker in this area. So there's a dark bit that's coming down here, and this branch is interrupting it. So I want that dark. Kind of have a hard line right here and then wrap around that branch a little bit. I really wish this branch wasn't in here. I wish I hadn't put it in because it really kind of is a little bit of an problem because it's the where it's at. I think I'm gonna get the black and just kind of darken up right along that edge and darken up that branch a little bit right there behind, and that pushes it behind everything. And then I'm going to use that dark black a little bit on the underside of this branch, and then as it comes down here, go ahead and just drag it and dry brush a little bit. Dry brush is just letting some of that texture show, so not pressing down quite as hard, letting that brush skim on the canvas. It's really effective for trees. Okay. I think I'm pretty close to where I want to be on this. Put a little bit more detail up here. Get my lighter color. And once you do that dark color, then you can come back in and do a few little dots over into those pattern areas. I'm going to get a little bit of burnt sienna, add it right in here. Some of that reddish tone. Already got it on the branch over here. Fitzy was in heaven this weekend, because my son Spencer came and visited us, and he slept with him every night.
And
She doesn't get to do with mom and dad, and went walking and got pup cups and went to the lake and does all the fun stuff that mom and dad don't do with him.
so was Fitzy the only one in heaven this weekend?
I might have been happy too. The youngest was here. I miss it.
Mm-hmm.
You got a job your whole life as an adult when you become a mom, after you become a mom, and then all of a sudden they grow up and leave you. And nobody, I don't know. It's like if you do your job right, they leave you. It's not fair. All right, using white here. I was using unbleached titanium there. I think that's good. I could spend all day on that tree. It's so fun. Lots of detail there. I do want to darken up. Now that I'm seeing it against the tree, like I kind of lost the dark in that area. So what I can do is just glaze that back. And so I'm going to take my black on the corner of a large brush, get some glaze. You can just use water for this too. If you don't have glaze, that's fine. You can just use water. But getting it on the corner kind of helps me control where it's going to go. And I'm going to go right up against that tree right there. And just darken this area off. Wipe my brush out. And just use the damp brush to kind of smudge out that area. I can do this as many times as I need to. You can go on this side too if I need a little more dark on that side too. Okay, I might darken up that whole area there. a little bit darker right in there. There we go. All right, pretty happy with that. And then I might just darken up right at the base of it where it's going down into the other bush here. So anything down here. And then we can also use it to darken up under this tree. So you don't want to have like an obvious line here when we do our bushes and things. I don't want an obvious line here, so I'm just going to darken up that whole area where the trees go down, just at the very bottom where they touch the ground. That way I don't have to have a, you know, they're kind of blended in. We don't see where they end. And then we don't have to worry about bringing our bushes in our foreground up over them. Okay. Looks good. You can also glaze on your tree itself if you want to add darkness to certain patches or whatever. Once you get your pattern on your tree, you know, that way you can adjust. I could add more reds, or I could add more golds, and I didn't add any yellow to it, so I might decide that I want to add some yellow oxide to it. So instead of having to repaint with yellow oxide, I can just take my glaze. And we talked about glazing last week too, so if you missed that video, went into it in a little bit more detail, but I can take that yellow and just touch it in a couple places over the top. And since it's translucent, it's just going to tint the painting, and I'm not going to have to worry about it.
Your biggest fan has joined us.
Noah. Hi, Noah. How you doing? It's my granddaughter. She's adorable.
And chat's all saying hi, Noah.
Everybody's saying hi. Hi, Noah. Cute.
And somebody said biggest fan is here.
Oh, I love it.
They know the routine.
Huh?
I said they know the routine.
Yeah. Yeah, she is something else.
So here's a question for chat.
Okay. I had a little branch right there.
If somebody had a package of Jelly Bellies at, say, best before November 2024, and they've been opened, and they look like they're Valentine's jelly beans, so they're probably from February 2024, would you eat them? Taking a poll.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
Good. As he opens it up. All right, let's paint our yellow tree here. So I'm just going to put a bunch of branches in probably the same way. I think I'll just use this. And the branches for this are actually kind of gray. So I'm going to get my gray, maybe my unbleached titanium. It grabbed a little bit of black when I grabbed it. And then because I'm not using a fluid paint, I need to add water. Because remember, we used the fluid black. So I need to have it to be kind of an inky consistency. I'm gonna add a little glaze just to make it stick well to the canvas. And just figure out where I want to put the bottom of the bush, which is kind of like just underneath this tree. Bring these branches out. The only where that it's going to really matter is right at the bottom, where we're going to see them a little bit. The rest of these are just kind of going every which way. And mostly going to get covered up by flowers, so. But we do want to have a little bit of them. And there's another bush over here. These are for Cynthia. We have these in our yard too. They're really pretty in the spring. I'm just kind of dabbing, creating little random shapes. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and I could do it a couple different ways. I think I might want to use my brush, even though it's going to take longer, just because I don't want them too clustered together. And if I do them, I don't know. Let's see. So I'm going to start with the yellow oxide and cadmium yellow light. And now you know what I want to do first. I want to do some green. There's a little bit of green in there, and that'll also kind of just help unify it. So I'm going to get a little bit of my yellow and some of the cobalt teal. I'm getting both of the yellows and the cobalt teal, and I'm getting that dark gray to darken it up a little bit. Might use ultramarine blue since it's a darker blue. And let's just tap in some of this all up in here. Not all through the branches where I'm going to put the branches. And I don't want it to go too light though. And I'm noticing there's some dark in here that I've kind of lost. So I'm going to get a little bit of my burnt umber and black and put that back in right there. Okay, so let's start with that. Maybe we do want some. We'll use this brush first and see what we think. Especially for this one, I think it'll be good. So I'm going to tap. And get some of that cadmium yellow light. Very lightly touching here so that I'm not getting too big of a cluster here all at once. So let's go ahead and just use this, and then we'll come back in with our individual brush and do a few little individual brush strokes. I think that'll work. I'm kind of turning my brush so that that flat edge is pointing in a line. So these ones out here, I'm going to go this way, and then up here I'm kind of doing it this way, and then up here I'm kind of turning it so that that line is always kind of facing the right way. The ones down here kind of come down towards us, so we can kind of go in an arc right in the center and down. Okay, that looks good. And then, so we got to start. So let's get the angle brush now, and I think I'm just going to use the yellow and some white. And I'm going to dab little blossoms all through. And mainly just trying to hit up like the outer outlying areas, anywhere where I want to create some shape. I'm probably not going to do a whole lot back there. I think I want to do this bush here. This one's bigger, so I'm pressing down and just pointing the tip down will get me little round dabs, dots. I think it was a good choice to start with a little bit of the stippling and then do this, because we don't have as much to do. Your eye will be drawn to these lighter ones that are on top. Okay. All right, I think that's good. Happy with that. And it's a little bit more golden in the picture, so once this dries, I can go back in and glaze back over it with a little bit more of a golden yellow. And I think I do want to stipple a little bit more of a green here, so I'm going to get some yellow, a little bit of the Cobalt Teal, and just dab in some grass in here. You want to do any of this that is kind of in the distance underneath this purple first. So anything that you think needs to be done, do it now, because once we get that purple going, we won't have time. So that's good. I think I'm going to go back to this angle brush here, and I'm going to get my yellow oxide and burnt sienna and some gray and maybe some unbleached titanium, just kind of neutral browns, and I'm going to use the tip and just fling it side to side here to do this leaf litter that's down here, this mulch or whatever. Just keep it small. Dabs everywhere. Okay, and then I'm going to get the burnt umber and come in here and do it with the burnt umber, kind of a mid-tone. This little kind of crossover, and go into my darker areas with it. Tap in. Okay. I'm going to get my black and a little bit of the glaze. I'm just going to glaze under this bush here where those tree trunks come down, especially if you see any of them touching the soil. You want that dark color, just like we did here. You want where they meet the ground to be dark, the same value. So it's good. And you can also use it to dab in a little bit of ruts or darker areas in our grass here. Maybe get a little bit of the burnt umber and yellow, or I'm sorry, ultramarine blue and yellow. Make a dark green. Just dab that in here and there. We already have a little bit of green here, so this is just kind of another layer of detail. Okay, that's good. All right, so let's put it in our big old purple tree and we'll be done. I think I'm going to use my round brush to do my tree trunks on this one. So I'm going to start with my black and add some gray. This is not all the way black, but it is down low here, but we can glaze that in. So I'm going to just put in a big old tree or branch here. I guess it is a tree, yes, so it is a tree trunk. Again, getting smaller. So you see how it's thick here and then narrows right here, so I need to correct that and just thicken it up all the way down. Right. And then there's just branches every which way. Want a few of them going into the dark areas and just make sure they're light enough that you can see them. If they're not showing up, then you make them darker. If they are, you know, if you've got a dark background, then you want to make them lighter enough to show up. Right here. And if they're background's light, then you can darken up the branches and make them dark. Would definitely make a really good spooky Halloween type, you know, like atmospheric scene. So you could easily put a couple pumpkins in here and make it a Halloween theme. Like, be fun to do this in different seasons, you know, this scene. Like you could do in summer with it all green, and then in the fall with it a little more spooky fall colors, which would be right now, so it's too late. But I think next year might be fun to do it, or maybe next month. We'll see if you guys vote on it. Let me know if you want to see this in a spooky theme next month. It'd be fun to try. And these are coming all the way over to this far, so we need branches all the way out here. All right, I think that's probably good enough. We can add more if we need to. There's a bunch up here, but they kind of get lost in all this, so I'm not gonna worry about it. If it's really noticeable, we can add more branches later, but we've got enough stuff going on back here that I think it'll be okay. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the angle brush for this. Let me go ahead and clean off my palette though, because I've got no room to mix any colors here. I've got a glass palette. I did get asked why the glass palette is gray the other day, so that goes back to why we started with a mid-tone background color. Anytime you're mixing colors, you can see here really obviously where these colors fall on the value scale. These colors are lighter, then mid, and this one is darker than mid. These ones are mid because they're disappearing against that gray. And then anything that's darker, you know, is going to be your darker value on your canvas. And so it just really helps with mixing colors. Because again, on a white surface, if you're starting from white, everything looks dark. If you start from mid, then you can tell what's light and what's dark. Okay. And not to say you have to have a gray palette, because I've mixed on a white palette for years, so it's not like you can't. I'm just saying it does make it easier, and that's why it's gray. And there's a lot of palette paper that comes in gray, this color gray, that, for that reason. All right. Everybody's gonna get a dunk in the pool so they don't dry out. You want to make sure you don't leave your brushes in the water, but you also want to make sure that that paint doesn't dry on them while you're waiting to finish your painting. All right. How you doing, hon?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I
Hanging in
opted
there.
to not eat all the jelly beans. After two, I'm like, yeah, they're kind of
Kind of stale. They weren't the
on the
best.
edge.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The sugar gets kind of grainy after a while. It kind of doesn't have the same texture. All right, so this is really kind of a violet, like a quinacridone violet. If you have it, you could probably just use that in white. But to mix up something similar, I'm mixing the Dioxazine Purple and violet, or Quinacridone Magenta and Dioxazine Purple to make a violet. So I'll make a couple of different tones of it, one a little bit more red. I don't think I need that Cadmium Red Light. I thought I might use it in the tree or in this bush, but well, I might use it to glaze on the bush, so we'll reserve judgment. Oh, I need more white too. We should ask the chat what you should buy, what car you should buy. Have you been having car chats?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, not at all.
Mark drives back and forth to Little Rock every day, which is like 150 miles
Round trip. Yeah.
round trip. Yeah, for work. And so he goes through vehicles pretty fast. So we're needing a new vehicle for him for commuting. He's been using his truck, but he doesn't want to ruin it by putting too many miles on it. So we were looking at cars today. All right, so here we go. Sorry, we'll chat amongst yourselves. We're
And now chat.
now chat. Go. Yeah, so I've got my dark and my kind of lighter version here, and I'm going to start with the dark, and then I'll dip into the lighter colors. And I think I'm just going to kind of set my brush down and pull down. No, I'm not loving that, so maybe I need to do like the opposite. Okay, set it down and kind of smush down. I might need my round brush instead. I want a brush that I can do this quickly, so I'm going to experiment here and find the brush that I can make the right shape without having to do more than 1 or 2 taps, because there's too many of these to mess around with a bunch of back and forth. So okay, so maybe it's this brush here. Those are a little bit big too. I kind of made them a little. All right, I think that's good. These ones are farther away, so they're smaller. Here at the top. And they're just like a little cupped tulip shape. And then the ones that are closer to us are obviously going to be a little bit bigger. So just going to have a variety of shapes here. They're all pretty much going to be like a V shape. You're going all the way up here, almost touching that tree there. Okay. And I want to make sure that I'm leaving space in between, because knowing me, I'm going to fill them up and have like just a whole mass of leaves. So I want to make sure that I've got some empty space in between my areas. Sometimes there's just a dot. What's the chat saying for commuter car?
Nothing specific.
No specific recommendations. Well, okay, so we're debating getting a more comfortable car or a more gas efficient economical car.
Yeah, I had put in chat the two that we drove.
That is the conundrum. I say get the more comfortable myself, because he spends so much time in the car. And he's will not want to spend that much since he's going to put so many miles on it. So just all right, getting the light color now. I'm adding a little bit more magenta to it because it was a little too washed out here, and I'm just going to kind of pull down with the magenta. And this might look a little bit light at first, so if it dries too light, we can always add the dark back on. But acrylics dry darker, so I'd rather go a little too light with this than have to do it again. Just doing these back ones because some of these, I don't want to just see how they're doing. Okay. Yeah, they're a little dark, so I think I'm going to go a little bit more magenta with the dark areas. I've taken so many pictures of the one in our yard and wanted to paint this for a while, so this is fun to get to paint it here with you guys tonight. And my backyard does not look like this, so this is much prettier than the picture that I got of mine. Okay, kind of like using this brush with both the dark and the light on it. You can see kind of how it's double loaded, and it's kind of doing a nice job. So I'm going to continue to do that, get the magenta on one side and then kind of scoop up the lighter color so that I can do both at the same time. Again, this is definitely one where you could spook this up quite a bit if you wanted to. It's already kind of got a mood, you know, so if we wanted to make it autumn, I think it would be really easy. You could just do little leaves here, and instead of doing these individual flower buds, you could do groups of leaves with a green or a red or something. I think a red would be pretty. With the yellow, you could really leave the yellow kind of as is. Down here, there's not as many. I need to make that a little bit more narrow where they're coming together. This area kind of got wild, so. Make sure they're coming down to a nice little pointed area. Little dabs, just more and more. Fun. Yeah.
You seem to know what you're doing over there, so that's good.
Thanks. I'll try.
Because if we were relying on me, we'd be up the creek.
Well, if we need an Excel file, we know who to call. You need to start yourself a YouTube channel for all the Excel geeks out there that want. That's sometimes Mark's watching videos over, and 9 times out of 10, it's like either a video game or an Excel thing or cooking. Those are
Yep.
the Excel ones always crack me up.
Yeah, I'm about it good. I'm less good at Excel than you are at watercolor.
Yes. Okay. Oh, less good? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Well, I can do some pretty interesting things. Watching what these pros can do is,
Impressive.
yeah.
Got it. Well, that says a lot because you do a whole lot more than I do with Excel. Setting up all kinds of things. All right, just going in with my highlight color now. And this is just kind of a delicate back and forth of light to dark, making sure I've got some little highlight bits, and I'm mostly just doing the highlights at the very top of the flower and leaving that dark area kind of down where it cups down into the bud. And I've got a lot of areas here that are not, that don't have branches, so I'm going to go ahead and get some of my white and gray and just put some branches out to these. They don't all have to be super like defined, but especially if you've got a bunch of them and there's a real obviously no branch down to them, then you need to go ahead and kind of extend something out to them. And run all of these up here, maybe do some. There's a few up here that don't have anything. And the branch comes out from the base of the flower, so the flower buds kind of set on the bottom like a cup, you know, it comes down here. You know what I'm saying. Okie doke. Right. Let me get my purple, a little bit of that magenta, and just go back in and darken up these at the bottom. So we're getting close to time. I think it is the AC because I start coughing every time it comes on. Wonder if our filter needs to be changed out. No, I just wondered. Just I haven't changed it in a while. Okay, so just kind of coming up underneath these and giving them a nice little dark area where they'd be attaching to the branch. These ones already kind of were dark to start with, so just doing these ones down here mostly. And then I'm going to get the magenta, just the magenta. And add some. The magenta is a transparent color, quinacridone, so I can put it over here, and I may need to go back in and lighten up some of these areas, but I can go back over the flowers now and add this magenta, and it'll brighten up those light areas and make it a little bit more red violet to a little bit closer to the reference photo. Fuchsia colors are, to me, one of the hardest colors to capture in paint because there's not a really good equivalent color for them. As far as, like, you know, a color that's manufactured in paint. Unless you go fuchsia or an opera rose kind of type of color. But those colors are fugitive, they're dye-based, they're not light fast, so they're going to fade over time. So you kind of just have to sort of trick it and try to get it as close as you can. Alright, gonna get some white with my magenta here and add some little bits of highlight. And this is, again, just like our tree. Do this back and forth as many times as we want to really draw out the attention to the petals that we want to be more noticed. Add more petals. Okay. I think we're almost there. Let me get really light now. Get a lot of white. Just a few. And I'm going to glaze back over this, so doing this really bright on purpose. Ideally wait for it to dry here, but I'm gonna be lazy and come in with the magenta while that's wet. So it may blend with it a little bit, but just a transparent thin layer of color in those areas will really pop. I'm really mainly just hitting the bottom of that highlight so that it kind of blends down into the darker area a little bit. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna maybe add a little highlight to these leaves in here. Maybe get this brush again. Get some Unbleached Titanium in my gray, brown, burnt umber. So go just a little bit lighter than what we had here. And just a few more little random bits. We could also add a little bit of blue-gray since we have a little tiny bit of blue in the sky. Could get that ultramarine blue in my white and some of the gray. Use that down here, just a little. And then you could also use the blue-gray in the underneath the bush in the shadows. A little bit of the ultramarine blue as a glaze under here. This is just if you want to add a little color. I think I did too much right there. I don't want it that obvious. There we go. Get some burnt umber and black. Glaze with that. Okay, there we go. All right, I think I'm gonna call that quits there. Oh, I was gonna glaze on this. I forgot. I was gonna do that. So let me do that because this will benefit greatly from having a little bit more of a goldish tone, I think. So I'm adding the cadmium yellow and the cadmium red light together, creating a yellow gold. And these both are opaque, so I have to add a lot of glaze because I don't want to muddy up my colors too much. But this will. Just a little bit more of a golden color, and I can kind of concentrate it in certain areas. Leave some of the other areas a little bit more of the cadmium yellow. This is also a color that I can put with some white, maybe a little bit of yellow oxide. Use down here. You could also put grasses down here if you wanted to. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted to in this foreground. So if you don't want browns, you could do, like I said, grass or another plant if you wanted. I wouldn't add another major color though. And it is nice that it's brown because it's neutral. And like I said, you know, this is like 10% green, 30% yellow, and 60% of the pink. And that's why it looks balanced and works. So, all right. I think, yeah, it's just a good decorating rule of thumb, and composition-wise, it's, I think, one of the reasons why this one is so eye-catching right off the bat. I probably could have lightened up the background here now that I'm seeing it against, I don't know, compared to that, but I mean, I could go in and add some little bit of green, but it would, you know, I'd be painting around our tree now at this point, so yeah, it's not. A bit of green and yellow, my gray. I want it just a few little wispies back there just to break it up, and then you can add them kind of. This is kind of the color of the blue that I was messing with down here. So, okay, there you go. They kind of broke that up, and so it's not so plain right there. But, all right, I'm going to call that good. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. Ooh, super chat. Super chat.
You're just going on without me there.
I know. We're done.
No, we had a super chat
Nice.
from Angela.
Aw.
Says,
Very
thank
cool.
you for sharing, or for a wonderful evening. You are a blessing.
Oh, thank you, Angie. Or Angela, I don't know. I never liked being called Angie, so I don't know if that's for you too, but solidarity, sister, with you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
That was very sweet.
very generous. Thank you.
All right, just messing with it. I'm sure I'll see things later that I want to change, but you know, it is what it is at this point. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I did here is kind of clustered. Like there's an area in through here in the picture that doesn't have flowers. So I kind of spaced everything out a little bit evenly. You can see it's like almost like a ladder of, you know, dots coming up. So I think in hindsight, I probably would have left a couple of these out just to leave them more space and less pattern to it. But, you know, I think I did a better job of it down here than I did up there. So just critiquing my own work for you. There you go. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your week. If you're part of my Patreon crew, I will have a traceable for this. It's the $5 tier. It includes all of my traceables for YouTube, and it also includes a whole beginner series that teaches you the basics of acrylic painting. If you're new to it, it's a really good place to start. It has lots of information, lots of little mini tutorials and homework lessons for you to do and practice so that you can get a little bit more comfortable with painting with acrylics and jump in. And there's also bonus tutorials and things like that on there too for the $5 tier. And then for the $15 tier, we're working on something every week. Thankfulart.com is my website there. Mark had it up on the screen. You can join my newsletter there too to get information about our new upcoming schedule and that kind of thing. Each month we send out a newsletter, and each week we remind you of the video that we're going to be doing that week. So I don't spam you, or, you know, I promise. I just send out, you know, information. You also get some free goodies and a free color chart and a free bonus lesson to see my Patreon, see what it's like if you want to check it out on my website there when you sign up for the newsletter. But this is the $5 or the $15 tier, and we meet once a week and paint together on Fridays for usually a couple hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours, and work on one project all the way through until we're done. So this is 5 weeks in, and we've got at least 3 more weeks to finish it. We're going to have lots of flowers and mushrooms and all kinds of fun stuff on these books, and we'll be voting on what titles we want to put on the books. So that'll be our next fun thing we're going to do with those $15 folks. And they've also got a Facebook group that's part of that tier as well. All right, so lots of information there at the end. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.